Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So it looks like Bethenny Frankel is not done talking about her interview with Raquel. Today she released a 20-minute minus ads just a episode talking about the aftermath. So I have that for you guys. The reaction video is almost done, so make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be alerted when that goes up as well. So guys, let's get into this podcast.
What a whirlwind. Interviewing Rachel, going viral, breaking the internet, so many rumors, so many press articles, and it's unsettling, to be honest. She's gotten a lot of hate in the world, and I'm taking on a lot of that hate now. And it's been really interesting because I'm proud of myself for not caring really that much. Like, just people that I really respect in the entertainment industry and in politics, in government, in business, and people I just interact with on a day-to-day are all saying to me, you're doing the right thing. And change scares people. And I'm totally on the right side of history. I've had 5 documentarians reach out to me to want to do documentaries. Just the swirling press shows that I struck a chord and a nerve. And there are so many different things that people want to say and talk about. So let's break it down. First, some people say to me, oh, wow, is Andy mad you're doing this? Have you spoken to him? And I say I have not, but I'm sure he is. And this is not a target on Andy. This is not a target on Bravo. This is about a systemic issue in the entertainment industry. People have come and said, oh, aren't you a hypocrite? I'm a hypocrite because there was a show that I was never talking to Bravo, by the way. I was talking to a production company. I spoke to Andy one time, but he wasn't even working on this project. And I spoke to a production company, and Bravo was the most logical place that this project would live, about Connecticut. And a couple of months ago, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore. I just backed out of the project. And it wasn't really that well thought out. And I didn't know that I would even talk about this quote unquote reality reckoning or have a problem with exploitation. I didn't really think about it. I didn't allow myself to be exploited because I also was in a power position. When you are a rainmaker, you make money, you make ratings, you're not as exploited as other people who don't really have a vote and a voice. So there were things, though, that happened with boat incidents and the way that people are just lied to and manipulated. There are things that have happened, but I can handle myself in any industry. I've been exploited in other industries too. It's okay. I can totally handle myself. So I just decided several months ago that I didn't want to do the show because I had heard about this lawsuit against the production company that I was doing the show with, that they had stolen, allegedly, someone's show from Married to Medicine. Now, one of the publications was calling recently and saying, well, that's hypocritical. That was 2 years ago, that lawsuit. Okay, I didn't know about it 2 years ago. I wasn't following the improper practices within the world of reality TV and the behind the scenes underbelly. I do have another life, another job. I have a daughter. So I did not know about that. I was already feeling hesitation, not because of Bravo. I didn't know any of this. I was already feeling hesitation about doing this show because I want content to the people. I want to be on platforms where I can control when it goes up and what goes out, not having to have a bay of editors control my content. It takes a week to film a Housewives episode, and you only get an hour of footage, that's where all the juicy other things that aren't shown live, on the cutting room floor. So I wanted content to the people. It's where I'm moving with social media. It's very obvious. Everyone was like, oh, TikTok, she's starting a beauty line. That was false. It didn't happen. Instagram, none of this. I just wanted content to the people the way that I want it. So I was having that thought. And then I just got a shady sense of the partners I was working with, the way that they were working. And I had a weird feeling that they kind of were withholding some information about the show and wanted to put language in that created loopholes so they could then do the show with or without me, even though it was my concept and I had spoken to Andy about it. So I just felt a little sketch. It wasn't a big deal. So I walked away from that deal. And now that's because the Bravo machine is hard at work because they are being pummeled and the best is yet to come. Like they have only just begun to feel the wrath that's coming down on them because this Pandora's box that, yes, I opened by saying something, but I did not expect the half of this. I didn't experience a lot of that treatment myself, but I understand it. And I know that I've kind of ignored hearing different people's stories in the past because it wasn't about me. And I now hear a lot of people on the different shows doing that as well, ignoring because it's not about them and they're making money on this platform. And I get it. I get it. You're on Beverly Hills, you're on Vanderpump, you're not talking, you're making money right now in a strike environment. I get it. So one of the outlets was saying, Bethenny shouldn't be leading this charge because it's hypocritical of her because she was going to be in business with Bravo. I'm not in a charge against Bravo. It's against an entire industry where people need to be unionized because it's so cheap to make the shows. That's going to age like milk. Yes, it's so cheap to make the shows, but the money that the shows generate is as much as a network television. So do the math. If it's cheap to make the shows and the shows are getting millions of views and millions of dollars in advertising, who's getting fucked? I guarantee it's not Lisa Vanderpump and Alex Baskin, who owns Evolution Media. And it will come out, I'm sure, I'm putting it out there, that I worked with Mark Burnett and they bought Evolution Media. And Evolution worked on The Big Shot. And I loved the show and the show went well and it was really like a tight production and it was a big production. But you can ask anybody on the crew if this happened or not. The first night was on election day and it was freezing. It was unseasonably cold and it was my birthday. I think it was my birthday. It was right around my birthday. And it was election day and it was unseasonably cold and we were in Connecticut at my house. I hadn't spent a night at my house yet. And I walked into the house because I had just bought it and had to be 100 people in the house, 100 people, like rings of coffee on the countertop. Like it was a disaster. It was such a horrible mess. I was getting such anxiety about a mess. And there were all these contestants that were there before we picked the first group. And they all came in, I think, on buses or cars. And they had been staying in a hotel for a long time, way longer than they were supposed to be. And they had to stay in a hotel for not only quarantining because of COVID, and it was a worst time to do a show. And I kept feeling terrible that it was around Thanksgiving. I think they had to be in that room. I kept saying like, this is not, it's not a good situation. And we were in my house and they were all downstairs. I wasn't with them, but it was freezing. And they wanted us to get this whole shoot of this first episode done in one day. And it was now getting to be like 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said to the EP and someone working under her, many people ended up quitting, by the way. The sound girl quit after this day. And I said, is this legal? Because people were there till like 2 o'clock in the morning and it was freezing and I was frozen solid. And I had been there all day, but they had been there, I think, even longer. Or maybe they came in the buses, but I can't. And the EP said to me, it's not legal, but it's not right. It's not right. And I understood why the producers wanted to keep it going. And maybe even the cast would have understood because they had to get the shot from the first day. They only had this location this one day because of budgets or whatever reason. They were only going to be here at this house, taking everyone out to Connecticut on this one day. So they felt like they had to get it in. But it just felt like this is not appropriate. But there was nobody to say it wasn't appropriate. There was no master, there's no governor, there's no HR, there's no union representative. So I know that, and my name is on that product, and everybody knew that it was fucked up. And the next time we shot, we were in the office that the show had sort of rented out for us, and I did a speech to everybody and said, that will never happen again. Like, that does not reflect, what this show is. So I just want to mention that there needs to be a controlled environment. There need to be guardrails. So about the interview, a lot of people just don't care for Rachel and don't believe her and our team Ariana, because she got cheated on, which I get. I could reiterate 1,000 times that it was pushed through the PR machine, and this particular incident triggered people more, and everybody did make a lot of money, and Rachel did not. And the number out there saying that she made several $100,000 for the season is false, completely false. And also, think about this. It's been said publicly by the producer of the show that they were going to cancel the show, and Scandoval saved it. So you don't have a new character. She's been on 2 seasons of reality TV. This is her 3rd season as a full-time person, coming in to make $360,000. She hasn't been there for 10 years. And they wouldn't give her $360,000 on a failing show that's going off the air for a 3rd season. It just wouldn't happen. So that's completely false. And people are saying, oh, I should be paying her. Like, they're trying to say that I'm exploiting her for ratings to live on the rest of her life. Just so you know, whether I paid her or not, how do you know what I did? How do you know what I'm doing with her? Nobody knows what I'm really doing, but I love the speculation. And the thing that people don't realize, particularly on TikTok, but definitely social media in general, bring it on. I love it. We're #1 worldwide for having a conversation with a woman who hasn't been able to get a conversation out unedited. And everyone thinks that they saw everything on this television show. I worked in reality TV for 15 years on every type of show, from The Apprentice to the Skating with the Stars to The Big Shot. I've worked on talk shows. I've worked in every area of this business. It takes a week to film a 1-hour episode on The Housewives. So what the hell do you think is on that cutting room floor? Just nothing, just eating cupcakes, like taking baths? Or do you think there's actual shit there? Because I can tell you that when I was in Scary Island with Kelly, the cast were the ones who shut down the situation with Kelly. We were the ones who realized that she seemed like she was going through something, an emotional breakdown of some sort. And particularly Sonia was like, now we have to stop. And we all got it. And we did stop. And she was escorted home the next day. With all due respect to her, she was escorted home the next day. A producer that does not fly first class was seated on the plane next to her first class. I remember them telling me, wow, I even flew first class. They wanted me to travel with her. And the entire cast, because I remember us filming after, thought there's no way she's coming back. Like, she just had some sort of an emotional break. And the show can do that to you. The pressure, the editing, the alcohol, the interviews, just all of it. And even if you act that way and then other people see you as that way, and then you see yourself differently in the edit, it's still part of it. So we all were the ones who were like, okay, it's enough. Like, let's stop. And then later the cameras stopped, but they had her filming again days later. We all were shocked. We thought she was going away somewhere, but not for the show. They want to capture that. So they want to get it all, but a lot of it ends up on the floor. And they want to ride the line with airing what they can air without getting sued, without it looking like it's fully illegal. And so I just want to say to you, if it takes a week to film a show that's going to fill 40-something minutes of airtime, what do you think you don't see? It's a lot. So no one's an expert on what really happened behind the scenes of this affair. But the man who cheated on his girlfriend of 10 years is living with her now. So she's at least forgiven him enough to live together. But the girl that was friends with her on the show, who's apologetic and who did fuck up, it seems, was emotionally abused at this reunion. She had sex multiple times for many months with a girlfriend who he's now living with, who have been on a reality show together for that entire time, who are profiting from the scandal individually and together, who have businesses that profit off the show, that profited off the scandal, who get to be on television another season on a show that was getting canceled because of the scandal. And the girl, one of the people, is not compensated. And you could hate her or love her. There's a villain. You needed a villain, and she's the villain. So she's allowed to talk and have a voice. And it's been insane. And watch out the Bravo PR machine numbers they're throwing out. Several $100,000, which is not true anyway. They're trying to throw out numbers and clump together everything she's ever made on Vanderpump Rules, not this season. And Lisa Vanderpump and Alex Baskin coming out and commenting on what she's making, they're just trying to protect the realm. They have to protect the realm. This is massive. Bravo's never had a hit like this ever in its history. So what would you do if you had the biggest hit of your life? You would have to protect the realm at any cost. It's the number one most important thing. To Bravo, to Lisa Vanderpump, to Evolution, to MGM on top of Evolution, to Alex Baskin, to Tom, to Ariana. And here's one thing no one's talking about. Rachel left the show. She could have gone back. She could have gone back and made money. She took a stance. So I would like to know what everyone would like her to do. So of course, it's such a big thing that everyone's talking about because everyone is perfect. And no one's ever made mistakes, especially in their 20s. Has anyone ever made a mistake in their 20s that they regret? Oh, wait a second. What about if you guys are drinking and maybe doing drugs and like out late at night at nightclubs? Oh, what if you guys work at a nightclub? What if you're out late at night listening to bands and music and there are a bunch of other 20 and 30-year-olds around also drinking and listening to bands and music in LA, you know, a very fast town of like broken dreams? I think it's shocking that before Rachel, there's never been a woman who's had an affair or made a mistake. So yeah, I was perfect in my 20s. Everything I ever did in my 20s was perfect. I've never been cheated on. I've never cheated because I've never heard of that happening before. It's very strange. And also imagine if like you could get paid for that. You get paid after having an affair and like the business thrives and succeeds and goes through the roof. That's amazing. Wow, what a model. Wait a minute. And what about if the people who own the bars that the people get drunk in and have affairs in and around also make money? Not only on the restaurant and bars, but they kick it up to the top to Bravo and NBC Universal, who also gets to profit on it. So they're profiting on a scandal, cheating, bars, and ratings and advertisers, all on a show that takes like over a week to shoot, but you only get to see an hour. But I'm sure everything that's not in that hour is really boring. I'm sure nothing happens because nothing happens at all after midnight. You know what I mean? It's really a boring time when you're wasted 2 a.m. I'm sure there's nothing to film. They should be filming like in the morning, like meditation practice or like a yoga retreat. That's what it is. Like maybe that would be more interesting television, and Bravo should do that. They should do a show called Meditation Nation with a bunch of young people that don't drink, don't have affairs, everyone's best friends. There's no conflict, no restaurants, no advertisers, and it's just really about self-help, reflection, and meditation. That's kind of would be that's maybe a good show for them. And then everyone will love Rachel because she'll just be meditating. No mistakes. The media, yes, that I shouldn't be leading this charge. Okay. That I shouldn't lead the charge against Bravo. Okay, great. Someone like to nominate themselves? Because I'm going to send an edible arrangement over momentarily. I'd love for someone to nominate themselves. Does anyone think I thought a couple weeks ago I'd wake up and be like, let me fucking start a shitstorm, make tons of enemies, burn bridges that I didn't need to burn, and be the leader of a charge, having meetings that I don't need to have, having meetings with SAG and AFTRA and with lawyers and with, all these different people. I could be surfing. So if somebody else wants to lead the charge, have at it. And the best part about this whole thing is I don't give a shit. I don't care what people think. That's what's funny. I look through social media and get dragged and trolled, and I like it. It means you're engaged. You're so bothered. You're so triggered. Keep it up. Hate sites about me, hate blogs, people, their entire day, their entire lives are spent putting little fuzzy microphones in front of their mouths to talk about me. Go, keep going. I don't need a publicist anymore. I've got all these hate sites. Keep going. Keep going, baby. I like it. So people have a hard time with that because then where are you going to go? I don't give a shit. It's engagement. Congrats. I get some questions about Nene in the beginning of this, about that she says I can say things she can't say. I know what to say and what not to say. I like Nene. Nene has talked before about unfair practices. The difference is that Nene's talked about herself, how she herself has been wronged, and she's sued for compensation and settled for herself. So that's the difference. I haven't gone and said here, I want compensation for anything, and this is what happened to me. So this my charge, as Page Six calls it, is about the entire industry and really other people and myself. But since I'm not going back to network TV and streaming, it doesn't really matter to me. You can watch my YouTube series and get everything, that I'm doing, because I don't want to be on normal network TV. But and the reason I didn't want to go back to traditional cable TV is the numbers don't lie. On my podcast and on my YouTube series, I get the same, if not more, views than the Real Housewives reboot gets. They get like a couple of 100,000, like 400,000 viewers for a multi-million-dollar budget project. Like, so unwieldy, so bulky. I'd rather just video something in the moment and throw it up on YouTube, content to the people. So I'm not interested in that unwieldy, bulky model with like a bunch of executives in a conference room and pitching them something that they won't understand, and editors and glossy magazines and budgets. I would rather just get the content up. Also, I was part of this machine, like the cheerleader for this machine. I've said things to people that I will always regret. But we're the soldiers. We're not the ones in charge that, frankly, should instill better workplace practices. Gretchen Rossi was at Tamara and was at I think Tamara's house, and Vicky and Tamara said they were going to get her naked wasted. They kept giving her drinks, and then in another room, Tamara's son, you heard like forcing himself on her. And I didn't see like a camera person go in and open up the door and be like, get off her. It goes as far as it can go, but someone might have psychological damage from that. I mean, there's a woman who had a man naked climb on top of her on below deck, and the captain who came down and threw him off the boat is getting praised, and that's great for him. But what about the camera people and somebody else in Video Village, which is a room where there's a group of people watching a small screen? What about someone in there being like, oh my God, there's a fucking naked guy going into her room? But no, because it's good for the show to hear Gretchen having someone force themselves on her while she's blackout wasted and could make really bad decisions. Who's there to say, like, stop? Who's there to say, let's stop with this Kelly thing? We sent her home, but she shouldn't be filming anymore. It's at the very least, it's emotionally not the right place for her. But no, because it's about ratings and about money. I was breaking down after Dennis died, and you had to come back and film, and I was in Florida and I was cracking. But know what? That's good. Having a nervous breakdown and cracking is good. I was the one, and I have all the receipts, who called Bravo and said to pay for Luann to go to rehab and to pay her for the reunion that she was missing, because if they didn't, she would have come to the reunion and been like a mess. But that would have been great for them. And I said to them, I wasn't showing up if they didn't do that. And it doesn't matter that she hates me and that she's making money off Bravo now and doing her show. It's fine. And did Ultimate Girls Trip. It's fine. But the truth is, they wanted her to exploit herself on the reunion. And I had power then, so I said, and you can ask Barbara, and you can ask her good friend Ann, Luann's good friend Ann, Barbara, myself, and Ann, who arranged everything from the intervention to me getting the lawyers to saving Luann from spending $7 million on a house. And you can ask the two of them if I didn't do that, if I didn't call Bravo and say I'm not going to go, and she has to be paid for the reunion and for rehab. And that year there was a firing squad against me, and she would have been one of my only allies, and I still said to do it because it was the difference between right and wrong. So that happened. So to close out on Rachel, she's a person. She has an opinion. She has a voice. She has a story. You don't have to like it. You don't have to believe it. You don't even have to listen to it. But to abuse someone who did something that so many other people have done, to abuse someone. Did anyone ever hear the very basic saying, to err is human, to forgive is divine? She made a mistake.
Wow. So it just never stops with her. I feel like this episode, she talked a lot about herself. It wasn't really so much about Rachel's interview with her, but more about my experience with this, my experience with that, my experience with this. But the parts that she did touch upon regarding the interview, I do want to talk a little bit about right now with you guys. So when Bethenny was talking about the interview, she mentions that Rachel would be on her third season as a main character, which I don't agree with. Rachel has been what they call a guest of the show since season 5. Though she didn't appear on the intro for season 5, she still appeared as a guest. Her first time in the intro was season 6. Rachel had been appearing the whole time alongside James Kennedy as the girlfriend, but she was always considered a guest. That's why I feel like season 10 was her first season as a main character. She was actually working at SUR at that point. They were getting more into her life in the confessionals and just learning more about her. Since she wasn't with James, she had her own storyline per se. And as I did mention in one of the 3 parts, for her to expect to be paid the same as Tom and Ariana, who has been around for all of the seasons, isn't realistic. And guess what? Bethenny agreed with me. She said it's not realistic. I do think maybe she could have had a bump and increase in pay, but I don't believe she should have been on the same level as, say, Tom or Ariana. Then Bethenny gets into how we all love to speculate whether or not she is paying Rachel for the interview. Well, we are entitled to speculate, especially when Bethenny is doing a whole 3-part interview regarding exploitation without compensation. And let's be real for a second. You're only number 1 worldwide currently because you had someone on your podcast that everyone has been waiting to hear from since March, technically April after the reunion, since she has been the only one to not go on a podcast and get to talk and say her side of the story. And she is one of the main people in the affair that has not spoken out. I think this is getting to Bethenny's head, though she is that type of person, in my opinion, already. Bethenny then brings up how Ariana and Tom are still living together. Well, maybe if she did any research, she would know there is a lot more than that. And more than what she can even think of. They have a go-between that lets each other know when the other will be there and when the other won't be there. They bought the home together, and I have a feeling that maybe Ariana wants to buy him out, and Sandoval, who is like a big baby, doesn't want her to have that. That is my opinion. We already know he's been bitching and complaining that he doesn't want to leave or sell the home. So I think he is making this difficult for anything to happen. And Ariana is standing her ground at this point and being like, no way. We also know Tom has been touring. He was also filming Special Forces with Nick Viall and other celebrities. So he has not been home since recently when they started filming. Ariana has also been away. She's been in New York. She's been doing other things like going over to do Love Island and all of that. Ariana will also be doing Dancing with the Stars come September. So there hasn't been a lot of time spent together in that home like she is making it seem like. This is something we all don't know what's going to happen or what might happen, and we will be filled in more as time passes. But the way Bethenny thinks it's all just peaches and cream in that household is insane. And she lived with an ex post-split for a while as well, and she described it as torturous. So how do we know that's not the same for them? I can also bet there's probably a lot of legal things probably happening with the home. And in the legal process, it does take a while. They try to come with a compromise before actually having to then file anything within the court system. And I can see Tom being very stubborn and not working with whatever deals they're trying to make. And Bethenny is also trying to throw this narrative, in my opinion, that Ariana and Tom are the ones profiting all the money and Rachel isn't being compensated. Yes, they are making money from what happened, but so is the entire cast and network. Everyone is making money. And like I've said too, Rachel probably would be too if she wasn't away at a treatment facility for months and had no outside contact. So we will see now that she is out if she gets any calls or any deals. I mean, there is speculation already that she's probably starting her own podcast just from what she said on Bethenny's podcast. I think Bethenny is just trying hard to push this narrative that Rachel is a victim, and I don't believe she is. And one last thing, she makes a comment that Rachel didn't go back. What do they expect her to do? Well, she didn't go back because she wasn't going to get paid what she thought she should get paid. Though there is still a binding contract in place from last season with Bravo, which we know she isn't signing a new one with them, but we are unsure what that binding contract says and how she will have to get out of it. It said in different articles that if she could get a doctor's note, then she'd be able to break that contract due to her mental health. So that will all be determined as well, and we'll have to wait to see there too. But what do you guys think? What do you feel about this aftermath episode? Let me know down below in the comments. And make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell, because the reaction video to all 3 parts and what the cast is saying and other people are coming. It's coming out in a couple days. I would say tomorrow, but I might put it out Wednesday because I have been waiting to see if anyone else says anything. And usually Lala and China's podcast both go out on Wednesday. So I was kind of waiting to see what they would say too. But make sure you are subscribed so you can get notified when that video is released, because we have a lot to talk about there. But I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye, everyone.